In the dark, endless waters of the Pacific Ocean, Japanese submarine commanders watched through their periscopes as American warships burned, yet refused to sink. To the Imperial Japanese Navy, it was baffling. To some, it was even laughable. How could ships struck by torpedoes, ripped open by explosions, stay afloat for hours, sometimes days? Japanese submarine officers began mocking what they believed was American luck. But what they failed to understand was this: they weren't witnessing luck, they were witnessing the most advanced damage control system in naval history. This is the story of how Japanese submarine commanders underestimated U.S. damage control and how that mistake changed the course of the Pacific War. Japanese confidence under the waves. By 1941, the Imperial Japanese Navy believed it had mastered submarine warfare. Japanese submarines were long-range, heavily armed, equipped with the deadly Type 95 torpedo, faster and more powerful than anything the Allies had. Japanese doctrine emphasized offensive power: one perfect strike, one kill. Submarine commanders were trained to believe a well-placed torpedo is a death sentence. And early in the war, that belief seemed correct. At Pearl Harbor, in the opening months of the Pacific Campaign, Allied ships exploded, capsized, and sank rapidly. Japanese confidence soared. The shocking sight through the periscope. Then, something strange began to happen. Japanese submarines started reporting successful hits, but no sinking. Torpedoes slammed into cruisers, destroyers, even aircraft carriers. Yet instead of disappearing beneath the waves, they stayed afloat. Smoke poured out, fire raged on deck, but the ships kept moving. One Japanese submarine commander reportedly wrote in his patrol notes that an American ship he hit refused to die. Others joked that U.S. ships were made of rubber or protected by luck. Some commanders accused their own torpedoes of malfunctioning, but the truth was far more uncomfortable. American damage control, a different philosophy. The U.S. Navy approached ship design very differently. Where Japan focused on speed, firepower, offensive strength, America focused on survivability, compartmentalization, crew training. U.S. warships were divided into dozens of watertight compartments. When a torpedo hit, bulkheads sealed automatically. Damage was isolated. Flooding was slowed or stopped. But steel alone wasn't the secret weapon. The crew was. The human factor. Every American sailor, regardless of rank, was trained in damage control, firefighting, flood control, emergency repairs. Sailors drilled constantly, plugging holes with wooden wedges, using portable pumps, sealing ruptured pipes, fighting fires in total darkness and smoke. Damage control teams didn't wait for orders, they acted instantly. While Japanese commanders watched through their periscopes expecting the final plunge, American sailors were below decks, knee-deep in water, refusing to surrender their ship. Japanese misinterpretation and mockery. Instead of recognizing this system, many Japanese commanders dismissed it. Some believed Americans exaggerated damage reports. U.S. ships were secretly reinforced. Hits were less severe than believed. Others mocked American crews as desperate but doomed. This attitude reflected a deeper problem in Japanese naval doctrine. In Imperial Japan, damage control was secondary. Saving the ship was less important than honor. Abandoning ship was often expected after severe damage. Japanese ships, even when repairable, were sometimes lost simply because crews lacked training or doctrine discouraged prolonged survival efforts. Case studies that confused Japan. USS Yorktown, Battle of Midway. The USS Yorktown was hit by bombs and torpedoes. It listed, it burned, it appeared dead. Japanese pilots reported her sunk. Yet hours later, Yorktown was still afloat and even recovering aircraft. This shocked Japanese observers. Only after multiple attacks did the carrier finally sink. For Japanese commanders, this felt almost supernatural, but it was pure damage control. USS Franklin, the ship that would not sink. In 1945, the USS Franklin was hit by Japanese bombs. Over 700 sailors were killed or wounded. The ship was engulfed in flames. Many believed she was lost. Yet through heroic damage control efforts, Franklin survived and returned to port. Japanese submarine commanders would never see this level of survival from their own fleet. The strategic consequences. Japanese submarines measured success by sinkings, not by damage. So when American ships survived, commanders often left the area too early, failed to deliver follow-up attacks, misreported kills. This had massive consequences. Japanese naval intelligence consistently overestimated U.S. losses. American industrial power repaired ships rapidly, sometimes faster than Japan could build new ones. By 1943, Japan was fighting a fleet that simply refused to disappear. The realization, too late. By late war, Japanese naval leadership finally acknowledged the problem. They recognized that American ships were harder to kill. Damage control was superior. Their own doctrine was outdated. But by then, fuel shortages crippled training. Veteran crews were gone. Industrial output couldn't keep up. The realization came too late to change the outcome. Conclusion: a lesson from the deep. Japanese submarine commanders didn't lose the Pacific War because they lacked courage. They lost because they misunderstood what keeps a ship alive. It wasn't armor, it wasn't luck, it wasn't magic. It was preparation, training, and a doctrine that valued survival as much as victory. The ships that refused to sink became symbols of American resilience, and the mockery that once echoed in Japanese patrol logs eventually turned into silent respect. In war, firepower wins battles, but survival wins wars. And beneath the waves of the Pacific, that truth became impossible to ignore. Japanese ship design emphasized offensive capability, long-range operations, and minimal armor to reduce weight. This made their ships deadly but fragile. Internal compartmentalization was limited. Fire suppression systems were underdeveloped. Backup power and pumping systems were often inadequate. One torpedo hit could cripple an entire vessel, and once fires started, they spread uncontrollably. Culture and doctrine, the silent enemy. Beyond steel and engineering, culture played a decisive role. In the Imperial Japanese Navy, damage control was not a prestigious duty. Training time prioritized combat, not survival. The concept of fighting to save the ship was secondary. Honor mattered more than endurance. Many officers believed that once a ship was badly damaged, its fate was sealed. Crews were not trained to improvise repairs under extreme conditions. Flood fighting drills were limited. Flood control training was minimal. As a result, Japanese sailors often watched helplessly as fires consumed their ships, while American sailors fought every minute to stay afloat. What Japanese submarines failed to report. Japanese submarine commanders often left the attack area too soon. After firing torpedoes and witnessing explosions, they assumed the kill. Periscope observations were brief. Confirmation was difficult. Follow-up attacks were rare. American ships, though burning and listing, were not sinking immediately. Japanese commanders misinterpreted this delay as torpedo failure, poor hit placement, or temporary survival. They did not realize that time was the enemy of their own success. Every minute an American ship stayed afloat increased its chances of survival. The American Industrial Miracle. Even when U.S. ships were badly damaged, the story didn't end at sea. America's industrial system was built for recovery. Floating dry docks followed the fleet. Forward repair bases operated near combat zones. Shipyards worked around the clock. A ship that Japan believed destroyed might return to combat weeks or months later. Japanese intelligence struggled to comprehend this. To Japan, shipbuilding was slow and precious. To America, it was relentless. Submarine warfare, a misused weapon. Ironically, Japanese submarines were among the best in the world. They had exceptional range, advanced optics, powerful torpedoes. Yet Japanese doctrine misused them. Instead of targeting merchant shipping like Germany did, Japan focused submarines on warships. This meant fewer opportunities, higher risk, greater reliance on single decisive hits. When American ships refused to sink, Japanese commanders felt robbed of victory. The mocking tone in their reports masked growing frustration. The psychological effect. Repeated encounters with unsinkable American ships took a psychological toll. Submarine crews began doubting their weapons, their observations, their effectiveness. Morale suffered. Some commanders became overly cautious. Others grew reckless, seeking confirmation at great risk. Meanwhile, American sailors gained confidence. They believed, correctly, that their ship could survive almost anything. That belief saved lives. Lessons learned, but never applied. Late-war Japanese naval analyses acknowledged American superiority in damage control. Reports admitted, U.S. training was superior. Crew initiative was decisive. Ship design favored survival. But Japan lacked the time, fuel, and manpower to implement reforms. The war was already lost at sea. By 1944, Japanese submarines were hunted relentlessly by radar, sonar, aircraft, and escort carriers. The hunters had become the hunted. The final irony. In the end, Japanese submarine commanders did not lose because they were ineffective. They lost because they misunderstood their enemy. They believed warships died the moment they were struck. The U.S. Navy believed a ship only died when the crew gave up, and American crews never did. Final conclusion: the battle beneath the waves. The Pacific War was not decided by a single battle. It was decided by thousands of moments. Moments where sailors chose to fight fire instead of fear. Japanese submarine commanders saw burning ships and assumed defeat. American sailors saw burning ships and assumed responsibility. That difference changed history. Steel can be pierced. Weapons can fail. Plans can collapse. But discipline, training, and determination, those are harder to sink. And in the silent depths of the Pacific, that truth proved decisive.